So, Prime Minister Ibrahim, can you share with us your vision for your chairmanship of ASEAN? And as we said, can ASEAN even work closer together and achieve more that way? Also, your single market has huge potential. Prime Minister. And let's give the Prime Minister a warm applause for coming back after 13 years.
Thank you. May I reiterate this point to suggest that we are fortunate to be in the region, relatively most peaceful and fastest growing economy, very pragmatic policies. But we are able to do that primarily because the relations and the trust among leaders is exemplary. I'm not exaggerating, but I don't find that sort of level of trust and friendship among countries, engaging on all issues, even what is deemed to be rather contentious, in a very frank, friendly manner. So we have built that consensus not to just use this forum, ASEAN, as just for diplomatic and peaceful resolution, which is very critical. I think we have passed that. Even in the more contentious issue like Myanmar, we have that consensus to reach an agreement through a 5-point consensus. We are working towards it. I think Julie will probably highlight that a bit. But then for this year, the understanding or the consensus is to focus first on energy, ASEAN energy grid, alternative technology, energy that covers the whole of former Indochina, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, the Philippines, and including the undersea cable from Sarawak. So which means that sort of a more pragmatic way of resolving not only our economic demands because of the huge interest in data centers being placed, because the requirements for water and electricity is now critical. So we have to address that. At the same time, deal with climate issues, notwithstanding what others think or feel. We in ASEAN feel that this is our priority. This is something which is critical for our future. Then second is connectivity, is digital, includes AI. So the region is now focusing on this issue so that there is better understanding between these countries. But again, the fundamentals still remain economy. People say, of course, they are contending forces, competing among ourselves. Not necessarily so, because we share, and I think there's enough of interest into the region, Malaysia and the region generally being attractive. We are more concerned also about the principle of inclusivity. You have to be sustainable, but you have to be inclusive, which means we do not neglect countries. We tend to engage and form a policy that will benefit one another. Because if you do not cater for that, then there will not be peace and tranquility among neighbors, as you have seen in the case of Myanmar. So I think I would end at that, but just by reiterating an earlier point, which is very critical, which many people have in my meetings in Africa, Middle East, and of course Europe and America, people have underestimated that importance of building that sort of trust, of working together, of focusing on these fundamentals. As a trading country, Malaysia, as a trading region, we take that position that we should continue to engage and attract American investors, Europe in a more aggressive manner, China, which is very important as our neighbor, and continue to do so with countries, Australia, India, etc. And I think this is what we call in ASEAN centrality, that we are able to engage and navigate, of course, more precarious. The problem is not our problem, is forced upon us, and we should not be compelled to take position against anyone. Thank you.
So what is your take on the situation in Myanmar, Julie? It is an ASEAN country, and who can and what is needed for ASEAN to be able to help and restore peace and stability, not only in Myanmar, but also then for the whole region, because Myanmar is an important part of ASEAN. It's so tricky, as I even was sticking to my script, you know.
Thank you, Borga and Excellencies. I'm very pleased that the World Economic Forum has seen fit to include references to Myanmar in its conference this year. Myanmar is a member of ASEAN. It is strategically positioned with China, India, Bangladesh, Thailand and Laos as neighbours. It is resource-rich, it has a young, educated population, but it has a very long history of internal conflict. And in 2014, for example, Myanmar hosted the ASEAN Regional Forum in Naypyidaw, and the world was very optimistic that Myanmar was transitioning from a military to a civilian government. Foreign direct investment flooded in, and we, the international community, expected it to transition into one of those superpowers of ASEAN. Others know the history well, but there was an election in 2020, Aung San Suu Kyi's party won, and in February 2021, the military took over the government. The United Nations Charter actually specifies in Chapter 8 that member states should look to regional organisations to resolve conflicts and find peaceful solutions. ASEAN did step up to the mark and held a summit and came up with, as Prime Minister Ibrahim said, a 5-point consensus plan as a way forward, because as a result of the military takeover, hostilities broke out across the country. Ethnic armed organisations became very well organised, very well armed, and the internal conflict and the subsequent humanitarian disaster has only escalated as territorial gains and losses on the battlefield dictate what's happening to the community. The important aspect of ASEAN's role here is that it remains impartial to the internal issues in Myanmar, but it will use its influence to get a better outcome for the people of Myanmar. And that's precisely why the UN is partnering with ASEAN. My mandate comes from a General Assembly resolution and a Security Council resolution 2669, and both resolutions specify that the UN Special Envoy will work with the ASEAN Special Envoy in collaboration to try and influence Myanmar to find a Myanmar-led way out of this crisis. ASEAN has also stepped up to the mark in terms of humanitarian support, and their coordination centre for humanitarian assistance, normally for disaster management, has been deployed to assist in this humanitarian crisis. It is frustrating that the 5-point consensus plan has not been implemented in a way or at a scale and a speed that we would wish. The situation in Myanmar is deteriorating, but I do see a light at the end of the tunnel with Malaysia's chairmanship of ASEAN and their new special envoy, a commitment that we will work together, and an understanding of all of the voices in Myanmar that the humanitarian situation has gone on far too long. The violence and fighting must stop. The transnational crime that's flourishing in the vacuum must be brought under control, and that only ASEAN and the United Nations and well-meaning neighbours will be able to influence that outcome. Our Secretary-General used a phrase today, Borga, when you were interviewing him, and I think I should leave it with this. Maybe we do need more robust diplomacy in terms of bringing an outcome that is in the interests of the people of Myanmar. I think together, ASEAN and the UN can be the bridge builder, can be the messengers of peace that is so sorely needed in Myanmar. And I fervently hope that it will be able to return as a fully functioning member of ASEAN, the region, and indeed the global community.
Thank you. Professor Yunus, how do you see Bangladesh and ASEAN and your aspirations there?
Thank you very much. You summed up very, very well for me, the background of it. I would have hated myself sitting there and watching an ASEAN session going on here on the stage. You saved me, I'm here. I'm very happy to be here with everybody on ASEAN. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And we all pray for your success, Julie Bishop. It makes a lot for Bangladesh, the Rohingya issue. And so you have to succeed, make it happen, and we're all with you. At 171 million people in Bangladesh, wish you all the success.
Thank you.
And I was talking about whether Bangladesh should be part of ASEAN, and as I said, I will hate myself. I consider myself personally as a part of ASEAN. It goes for a long time. Because when I started my work, the first country that adopted our work was Malaysia, Amana Ikhtiar, Malaysia, and next to your constituency. Anwar has become a very good friend since then. We have been very close, and enthusiasm that he showed in our work, as a result, is a spread. The whole idea of microcredit spread all over Malaysia. And that was the beginning of the idea of microcredit going out of Bangladesh. That's the first country. So that brought me so close to Malaysia, and it became stronger and stronger relationship with Malaysia. We feel extremely well connected together. So I don't see why we cannot be together in ASEAN. And my friend, Prime Minister Anwar, has already assured me that somehow we will become a part of ASEAN, starting with a dialogue partner, which is available, hopefully, because emotionally we're so close to make it happen. And then came Indonesia, next to Malaysia. This is the Karya Usaha Mandiri. This is a microcredit application in Indonesia. So Indonesia became very close to us, working together, village after village, island after island. So I cannot see myself distancing from Indonesia. We're so much part of Indonesia, so personally happening. And Vietnam. Almost every single women leader in Vietnam came to Bangladesh to study what we are doing and bring it to Vietnam. We did our program all over Vietnam. So personally, we're already part of ASEAN. We can't take it away from us. We have to accommodate us into ASEAN. And this is something that we have to work together. So this is what we're looking forward.
I would like to go back to you, Prime Minister Ibrahim. You listened to the other participants in the panel. You heard what also Julie Bishop said, and Professor Yunus on importance of breaking the impasse when it comes to Myanmar. Is there any realistic path towards getting back on track, or do we just have to be extremely patient? That's one question. The other question is also related to the single market, because there has been a lot of talk of integrating and creating a real market among the ASEAN countries. Where do you really think it stands today? How deep is it today, and how deep should it be, and how fast will it become as deep as you think it should be? And maybe the third question, ASEAN is economic success today, and the growth is much higher than the 3.3% that is the global growth that we expect this year. In Europe, we expect 1%, so that's a lot or more. But how to make sure that this also continues in the future, not to get complacent? So, three easy questions for you, Prime Minister.
Thank you. I think,
and you have 3 minutes now. I'm just
I would start with the response to my colleague, Prime Minister of Vietnam. We must have an ambitious target. It's not just going through the same process which we have been successful at in ASEAN, but I think ambitious. That's why we bring in new issues, AI, digital, and to make sure that it is inclusive. So I think that relates to the Yunus' question about how do we foresee the future, and also are we stuck to the present set of policies imposed by others? No, not necessarily. We have asked for the reform of multilateral institutions, but more so we have to set in a case because most of our countries now look at sustainability in a different light. Of course, climate concern for the excesses in protecting our environment, but what is important as referred to is sustainability in a sense that we cater for issue of values. And that's, of course, totally different from what others think. Values and issue of justice, of issue of correcting the imbalance. And most countries have that sort of a mantra now and introduce policies that would ensure that not the small coterie of oligarchs and cronies amass wealth at the expense of the vast majority. Now back to Myanmar. Myanmar, I mean, of course, thank Julie Bishop for this. We are progressing cautiously. I mean, the first positive indication in the last few months is the preparedness to engage. And I assured them through colleagues and our agencies, particularly intelligence agency, we're not here to impose. The system of governance, even within ASEAN, a bit different. Malaysia or Singapore, or Vietnam, Laos, they're quite different. As long as they're representative, some sort of a participatory democracy, we are not imposing. The critical point is peace must be secured. And you must not be deemed to continue these discriminatory practices or even what is deemed to be violence to be perpetrated against minorities or any groups. So the positive side is that there has been a low-key, low-level engagement amongst the influential, intelligence authorities to set the parameters to make sure that it's also inclusive. Because delaying means sufferings for many people, including refugees in Bangladesh, and even in Malaysia, 200,000 refugees from Myanmar, Rohingyas. It is totally atrocious to continue to allow this to continue. So the Myanmar authority understand that we have to take a strong position because the failures of governance in Myanmar are impacting our peace and security. So I am cautiously optimistic. Of course, we will coordinate with the UN on this, but ASEAN will continue to discuss this. We have agreed even to allow for countries, particularly Thailand, allow neighbors to engage at a different level, and we coordinate well. I am, again, cautiously optimistic. This has been going on for the last many decades. It's not as contentious or rancorous as in Gaza or Ukraine, but it is still problematic. It's been going on for too long. We talk about constructive engagement. I've been very cynical in the past. Some of us, my colleagues, we're talking about constructive engagement. What they did was to have construction projects, no constructive engagement. So we have to make sure that the parameters are set right. Don't impose, let them have their say, engage with them, and God willing, we say, inshallah, you'll be able to overcome.
Thank you.